residing in Part STEP, Part 60, and NDTC. But we have since November 18th of 2015, we've had the Brooklyn Misdemeanor Veterans Treatment Court, and my colleague, Justice Walker, was instrumental in envisioning, developing, and implementing and establishing that part. And I am so grateful for him for having established it, and so grateful for him to sort of hand over the reins to me when he moved on to do other wonderful things. So the veterans part is no different than the other treatment parts in that ultimately our mission is to help individuals who have criminal justice involvement, who have substance disorder or alcohol disorder, and to get them into treatment, but not just the way we do normally in drug court, but addressing really their special needs as veterans. And I'm not a veteran. I've always appreciated the armed forces and veterans and everyone who served in them. But it was real eye-opening for me when I began to preside in the park and really start to learn about these individuals beyond the label as being a veteran, as somebody who's served, but as human beings, and really getting an understanding of their lives and an understanding of just how difficult the issues that related to the traumas that they experienced while serving our country. And so the part really is designed to provide that kind of treatment and support that all of the individuals in our treatment parts get, but really with a special focus on providing the services that our veterans need that for many of them are really unique compared to the general population. And one of the things that really is the most important aspect of it is peer mentors. And we have peer mentors who are veterans. And it's just unbelievable to see, sometimes I've experienced in the courtroom, an individual comes in, he's agitated, he's upset, frustrated, for all the reasons that we have here in criminal court. You've been waiting, for a while to have your case called, that sort of thing. And I see their peer mentor walk over to them and have a conversation, a discussion with them. And to see the change in that individual's demeanor, they calm down, they're able to listen. By the time they get to me, we call the case, they're able to hear what I have to say. And they're able to speak to me in a way that really helps me understand what they're going through, what they've gone through in their life, and how we need to really tailor the services for them. And that's really a special thing that I wish I had peer mentors like that in my other treatment parts, because it's really a unique experience, it's a unique service. And what's to me so amazing about it ultimately is here are individuals who enter the armed forces, many of them who were deployed, risk their lives on a daily basis to protect our country, and then they're still giving back. And they're still giving back to their peers. And I'm just going to throw in a little quick plug. One of those peer mentors, Joseph Thrower, who's actually a graduate of the Veterans Treatment Court in Queens, is going to be honored on February 27th at the Criminal Court Black History Month. So I hope all of you can come just generally for that presentation, but also to see an example of someone who's gone through Veterans Court, really has made tremendous changes in his life, and is still out there helping his peers. So basically, in terms of eligibility, we'll take basically any misdemeanors except for arson, sex offenses. But our typical type case that we have there are petit larcenies, obviously criminal possession of controlled substances, criminal mischief. We can take cases post-plea out of DWI, so where the individual's a veteran, and if they want to get the additional services that they would get in the veteran part, we can take the post-plea case and we can monitor the compliance in the veterans part. And we take some DV cases. That's a little bit of a trickier area, but mostly to do with the type of services that typically are provided and offered in the DV parts. We have comparable things actually that are specialized for veterans, but because it's a smaller population, there aren't as many programs. And one of the big issues that we have is one of the best programs, they will only start a session when they have X number of participants. And so for individuals who are coming from the DV part, we need to get them services right away. And so oftentimes, as much as we'd like to take that case, if there's not a class that's open, that's specifically, anger management and different sort of domestic violence type programming available for right then we have to send it back to the DV part. How do the cases get there? Well, the person has to be a veteran. And if you notice on the CJA sheet, there is a question on every CJA sheet asking if the person has served in the armed services. That's self-identified. I'm sure there's many individuals who choose not to answer that question in the affirmative, but for those who do, we know right at the arraignment that in fact they're a veteran. And so that case ultimately will get adjourned into one of the regular AP parts. And at that point, if the individual is interested in sort of receiving specialized services through the Veterans Court, then it's really, engaging between the Assistant District Attorney and Defense Counsel, and the DA's office has to do initial review to see if it's an appropriate case to come to the part. If it is, then we can bring it in the part, and then have the person assessed and develop a treatment plan for them. There's basically two kinds of mandates. One is really not a mandate. One we have, and I don't know how familiar any of you are with MBTC, but we have what we call the Resource Engagement Program. And that program is essentially 6 sessions where we do an assessment, vocational assessment. We make referrals to treatment providers. The individuals undergo a physical evaluation and a mental health evaluation. And then ultimately, if they do all 6 of those sessions, then they have completed their mandate, and the case generally will be dismissed. The only time it's not dismissed if there was a CW and there's a need for an order of protection, and then it would be an ACD with an order of protection. And so that's probably most of the cases that we get fit into that category. The second would be a more traditional sort of treatment mandate, which is more like NBTC, where there's a defined period. It could be 4 months, 6 months. In those cases, traditionally, the defendants have had to enter pleas, but they're conditional. And often those will end with a dismissal, or again, if there's a CW involved, there may be an ACD with a final order of protection. I was talking to Karen before we started today, and one of the things we were talking about, and he was being very gracious and complimentary to me about my role in the treatment courts, but he was talking about, it must be great, every once in a while you see this incredible transformation in somebody's life. And I said, it's not just every once in a while, it's basically once a day. As a treatment court judge, I see someone who's made some incredible change in their life. And it could be small, it could be huge, but it's huge to them. And the beauty of the treatment parts and the veterans part is, unlike the rest of the criminal court or Supreme Court, we're there to provide treatment. We're there to provide support for people. We want people to make better decisions in their lives so they never come back to court. And to do that, there has to be engagement between judge, between the defendant. We have one of the things that we have, and Judge Walker, really was a great thing that you established, was on calendar days before we call the calendars. At lunch, we have a pre-calendar meeting, and we bring defense counsel in, the ADAs, and all the treatment staff, and we talk about the cases in a forum that really, we encourage people to speak freely. We're not going to use anything against you that you disclose, because the purpose of it really is to ensure that the services that are being provided to your client are what they need, And so there will be times when you as a defense attorney know a fact that you don't want to say out in open court, but that could be very useful for the treatment staff in terms of modifying, making an adjustment to this particular individual's treatment plan. So I said I was going to go on for 5 minutes. I've gone on for more than 5 minutes. But the last thing I'm going to say is, in terms of if you have clients that you want to be referred there, you can reach out to me, and I can get you, my court attorney can then give you the contact information of the DA's office, the person ultimately is going to review that case to determine whether or not they feel it's appropriate to send to the part. We have a peer mentor coordinator, Tim Martin, who many of you have probably met, who walks around in the parts, and he knows by having seen the CJA, he knows who the veterans are. So, he'll reach out to you, and if you have any questions, you can explain the process, and if you want the case to come to the part, then he'll reach out to us, and we'll make it happen. Thank you so much, and